Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Carlin and Friends with me, Carlin Coin, and Ted, a friend. Hello, Ted.
How you doing, Carlin? Good to have you here. Thanks
That
for
was
having me, I
awkward.
should say.
That was a weird phrasing, but yeah, fine. You're allowed to be here. Anyway, today we're talking about Rocket Man. So Trump has, put this term onto Kim Jong-un. First, he did a tweet talking about, Rocket Man, this or that, while, gas lines are getting huge in North Korea. Talking about how their internal economy is failing while Kim is putting all this effort into launching rockets. And then during his speech at the UN General Assembly, he also referred to him as a rocket man. So
the first time I heard the term was during the UN speech, and I have to admit my socks basically knocked themselves off. I was just so excited. It was, oh yes! Some kind of rocket man hell-bent on a suicide mission? It's like, yeah, damn straight that's what he is.
Yeah. Okay, so if I can paraphrase that, I think it hits you. You don't have to think about it and analyze it to see why it's powerful. You hear that phrase about Rocket Man, suicide country, and you're just like, holy shit. It like hits you in the bones. It goes straight to your subconscious. It bypasses. You don't have to make sense of it to see why it's powerful. Your brainstem knows. Your reptilian brain understands why it's powerful.
Right, your reptilian brain sums it up just immediately with that amount of information.
Right. So, the way I'm looking at this term, Rocket Man, it's like a tool in Trump's war against North Korea. Right? We're not at the state of what they call a kinetic war right now. We're not doing actual war type stuff, but we are certainly in an economic war with North Korea. We're probably doing like cyber attacks. They're definitely cyber attacking us. There's wars of some level. And there's this war of words where Trump keeps talking shit and threatening him and threatening China and others if they don't harshen up the sanctions. So as part of this war, as part of this overall war effort, this Rocket Man label is his newest weapon. That's the lens through which I'm analyzing it.
Right. And is it safe to say that in that war of war, the way North Korea is successful in this war of words is that they make some really bellicose statement. Like, we will reduce America to a pile of smoking bones. And it's kind of like, the more they can get away with those statements and do rocket launchers and that type of stuff, the more ground they gain.
You're right. I think it's about them getting away with it. You raise a good point there. Like when he says, I'm gonna kill all you North Americans, burn you to the ground. And then someone like Obama is just like, well, we will take the higher road and show strategic patience here. On a fucking rhetorical level, on the way the common people see that, it's like, ugh. It's like, well, thank God we have the best military in the world, because fuck.
Well, better yet, when Iran sees that, they're like, hey, these guys are allowed to slap Obama in the face, why don't we slap him too?
So yeah, for all of these other parties, whether it's the different nation states or, like the oligarchs in Russia, all the different power players, it affects the way they see it too. So Trump has been using aggressive, bombastic rhetoric. When Kim Jong-un says something, fucked up, he'll come back even more fucked up. He said in the UN speech, he talked about completely destroying North Korea. He's down to go there. He's like, fuck it, it's on, it's on. So
I came in my pants when I heard that. He's gonna completely or
I think it was completely destroy North Korea.
Ho ho ho! Fuck yeah, man! I've had it up to here with North Korea. It's been 50 years of straight bullshit. I'm ready to punch him in the goddamn teeth.
Right, and yeah, strategic patience has not solved the nuclear crisis. Now, I don't think that...
Patience makes my dick shrivel up inside. It's the exact opposite of the sensation that I felt when I heard Trump articulated total destruction.
Now, just because this is not strategic patience, that doesn't mean it will work. But let's analyze why I think it will. So, what's the solution to the North Korea situation? It's almost like the underpants numb thing. We know what step one is. We put a shitload of pressure on North Korea via China, via Russia, via the people who are its economic partners. That's equivalent to the South Park episode, collect underpants. And then we know what step 3 is, where there's a unification between North and South Korea. They're one country led by one stable government.
South Korea being the government.
Yeah. Well, it'll just be Korea then.
Right.
And that's tantamount to the South Park profit. Right? So the underpants numbs had step 1, collect underpants. Step 2, step 3, profit. So we've got step 1 and step 3.
2?
Well, step 2, we can't quite figure out yet. But we know that the first thing to do is put the fucking heat on them to make them crack. And we know the eventual resolution is that North and South Korea will be one country. But what we don't know is the exact mechanics of getting the nukes out of this madman's hand.
Right.
So that's very much a difficult question, one that we should be considering working on. But at the same time,
can we spitball?
I'm not certain that there's no answer there. I don't think, no, we don't have to sit around and try to answer that right now. This is something all the best, foreign policy people in the world have been talking about, and it's a difficult one to answer.
Would you allow me to go this far, Carlin?
What do you got?
So, yes, the step 2 is undefined, but here's the one part of step 2 that they always gloss over. Well, yeah, we could crush them in a matter of weeks, but it would lead to severe casualties on both sides.
No.
So, is that part of this, is that not the answer? Are we sure it's not the answer? To shed a little blood now?
I think it's probably not the answer, but again, that's not the point of this discussion. This is something that's been talked to death by all the best experts in the world. No one's been able to come up with a good answer on. What we're focusing on today is that what we know is step 1 and we know step 3. So how do we do step 1? Strategic patience sure as fuck wasn't doing it. Trump ramping up rhetoric on North Korea and on China and their trading relationship with North Korea, that seems to be the path, or a much more viable path at least. And what we're talking about today is the Rocket Man comment. So this is another tool. This is a missile in the step 1 arsenal. So let's
ICBM, so to speak.
A Moab, motherfucker.
Well, actually, ICBMs are much more devastating. Typically, ICBMs carry nuclear warheads. Moab is just a big bomb. Who cares about the Moab? You can accomplish the same goal with 3 medium bombs.
It's a good rhetorical bomb. All right, so what do we think about Rocket Man, though? This is the way I would frame the analysis. It's one of Trump's derogative nicknames that have worked so well for him.
It's the Scott Adams linguistic kill shot.
Right. So we have Low Energy Jeb, Lion Ted, Little Marco,
Crooked Hillary! That's
Crooked Hillary. So, or Rotten Hillary, Rotten Clinton was one he tested out, but it didn't work.
No,
he stuck with Crooked Hillary.
He went with Crooked, yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those. And what do those things do? One, because it's sort of childish and simple, it's easy to remember. Right? It's like you don't need to bring out your notes and see what he was talking about every time you see it. It sticks in your head so well that every time you see that gout-ridden North Korean tyrant, you just automatically, Rocket Man.
Yeah.
You don't have
Right.
to put in any effort. In fact, even if you try to not think of him as Rocket Man, some part of that's going to come up.
It's
So
drawn
that's
with
step one.
Crayola colors. There's no
Right.
denying the pieces it was made of.
So we know. So it's infectious in that sense. And then what does it do? When you think about him as a Rocket Man, what does that make you do? For one thing, it makes, the Rocket Man is someone whose focus is on the rockets, not on feeding his starving people.
Right.
And I think that is maybe the best. That's one of the strongest critiques against Kim Jong-un, is that he is putting all of his focus on these war devices instead of the humanitarian things he desperately needs to be doing within his own country.
That's the intellectual look at it, but I have to say, just my immediate vision when I hear Rocket Man is Kim Jong-un riding on the back of an ICBM, waving his cowboy hat like it's his Dr. Strangelove. That's the image, that's the Rocket Man on a suicide mission. Oh my God! Was he deliberately?
The Dr. Strangelove reference.
Was he deliberately making that comparison?
Okay, no, maybe, but I think whether or not he was, it does, at least part of the implication is a suicide thing.
Right.
Like, the rocket itself is not going to survive the conflict in which it takes part. He's a rocket man. He's just like a suicide guy,
right,
just blowing himself up to further this war and not for further peace, not further prosperity.
You see, the rocket's connected with the personal individuality of Kim Jong-un. It's like he's I don't know, maybe it's getting a little bit vague, but like something about him personally connected to these rockets individually, right?
Right. Okay, so it makes us think about, one, his priorities are out of whack. He's all focused on this war shit.
Right.
Two, it's basically a suicide mission. He's gonna kill himself just to prove his point, just to do his war action.
Because to go to total war with America would be suicide, tantamount to suicide.
Right. So it's stuff that it rings true in your subconscious. It feels right.
Yeah.
Now, what does this do when you have those subconscious implications every time you think about Kim Jong-un? It makes him seem less like a world leader, right? It makes him easier to dismiss, or not necessarily dismiss, but easier to look at like some fucking child. Like, some 9-year-old king of Scotland who just decided he's gonna send his armies over there. You're like, oh, really? Fucking retard. Alright, let's just smash this guy. We'll send our armies over there. Yeah. So it makes him a less credible foreign adversary.
It makes him look physically smaller or shorter because you're comparing the size of Kim Jong-un to the rocket. So
right.
By contrast, he becomes the small entity in the equation.
Right. So, and, okay. So I think the last thing we need to take into account is the Elton John song. Now, when you hear Elton John, just give me your first one-word response. What do you think?
Gay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's probably the single most common thing. Elton John is like, if you needed an example of a gay guy, you would say Elton John.
What else are you going to say? Piano? Weird sunglasses? Mediocre music?
So, no, the music's quite good. Don't talk shit.
Pick and choose.
But whether, so I think even the most enlightened people are like, yes, being gay, it's totally, not a problem. Some guy's gay is gay, that's his deal. But some part of your brainstem thinks of him as less weak and powerful than a straight man.
Wow, Carlin.
There's no doubt there.
So you're telling me that Kim Jong-un, the Rocket Man, he's gay?
He takes it in the bum. Right in the hiney.
Wow, I didn't even make that connection, but it's right there.
That's totally part of the linguistic kill shot. These things are complicated, right?
Yeah, they're layered.
Okay, so we're probably missing a couple of points here, but I want to go through really quick and look at this one rebuttal article just to show us how the American left is responding to this. So we're going to run through some of the bullet points as to why some CNN writer claimed this was a bad, poorly chosen name to refer to Kim Jong-un as. First of all, it's inappropriate to use because it infringes on Elton John's IP, his intellectual property. For one, that's just false. That betrays a lack of understanding of the law. It's certainly not a copyright infringement. And if you're going to argue that this is a trademark infringement, that would mean that you think that this would lead the reasonable people to believe that Elton John is the Rocket Man and not...
Right.
It's some crazy
but also the very virtue of connecting it to a famous Elton John song makes it stronger because it becomes an easily and at hand recognizable idea.
Right. Okay. No, that's a good point that we didn't quite mention. Is the fact that it is the super well known song makes it more sticky. It makes it every time. Right, you don't have to think about this to understand why it is so. Alright, let's keep going through this broad's bullet points. So she said it also fails because Trump is like a dumb dad trying to look cool. It's like a dad joke. Therefore, it's ineffectual.
Does that have anything to do with the song, or is that just this writer's personal opinion on Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards the latter because there was no evidence towards the former. But I'll quickly point out that a dad joke, which is somewhat funny, that appeals to everybody. Because a dad joke basically means that it's afraid of offending people. It's not that's afraid of offending people, but that it's safe and that it's old-timey.
Absolutely. A correctly implemented dad joke, it speaks to the part of the culture that we all share.
Right. And if you get one that actually is kind of funny and you can get on board with, that's a really powerful tool.
It's the most marketable joke in comedy. That's what Vegas is filled up with.
Right.
Carrot Top, that's his entire wheelhouse.
Hey, and Carrot Top sells out fucking stadiums.
The guy makes millions, and guess what? He's yoked, too.
Yeah, he's yoked now. He's on HGH.
He's been yoked for like 15 years.
Alright, so her next point was that Donald Trump is desperately seeking a catchphrase because he hasn't had one since you're fired. Oh, wait a second. What about Little Marco?
Low energy Jeb.
What about Lion Ted Cruz? What about Crooked...
Crooked Hillary, my favorite!
His whole campaign was catchphrases. So that's just... Right. Completely missing the point.
There's probably 10 that came before you're fired that we didn't fucking hear because it was in the corporate world.
Okay, her next point is she acknowledges that Trump is a branding expert, but for some reason says that branding doesn't matter here, without explanation. So I almost want to just move on without explanation, because obviously branding matters. Are you kidding? This is a battle of minds. This is like, we're talking to the zeitgeist. We're talking to people. Of course branding matters. Are you crazy?
The one thing that I would add is that the people that recognize this point more than anyone else are these sort of left-leaning media types. They're the ones that constantly tell you how important branding is and how much these big evil advertising companies are selling you with slogans like "Let's do it" or "Just do it."
Let's do it was Trojan's motto, but they scrapped that one. that one didn't make it. All right. So her last point here, which I think is the closest one to an actual valid point, but let's explain why it doesn't make sense. And this point is that the character in Elton John's song is a good guy. So by calling him the Rocket Man, you're calling him the good guy who misses his family and his wife and stuff. So I think if you heard Rocket Man applied to Kim Jong-un, and what pops in your head is like, oh, that hero who's just trying to be with his family,
Right.
then yes, that would work against it. That would work in Kim Jong-un's favor and against Trump. But nobody fucking gets there. Number one, you think about the rockets, the ICBMs, and it's only as a secondary thing that you even get to the Elton John song, and then the first stop there is just, oh, Rocket Man, I've heard of that song, like, he's a Rocket Man, I get it. The next subconscious step is gay, as we discussed, and yet to get down to the layer where you're, analyzing it as this character within the song, that's like 10 subconscious layers deeper. And that is 10 times less sticky and less effective and, doing less than all the other shit we've discussed today.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time
Before Trump loses any election.
fund. Ain't nobody waiting for me at home.
Alright, guys. I think that's about it. You got any wrapping up notes here, Ted? I think we've done a pretty damn good job breaking down this one.
If it weren't for my singing, it would have been an A+.
Alright, guys. We will see you soon. If you have any questions, put in the comments below. We will respond to them. But if they are adversarial questions, you will be defeated.
Thank you, guys.